Hey there, it's Kay. I hope you're well. For the past week or so, I've been feeling a bit of an itch to try a different notebook cover for my planner, which surprised even me just because I love my standard brown Midori so much, and I've been in it constantly for the past about 2.5 years. But I have a few covers that are just kind of hanging around and don't get a lot of use. And so I thought maybe I'll try swapping the contents of my planner out and trying a different cover. So in this video, I'm going to be transferring those contents to my standard, beautifully scuffed and scratched secondhand olive traveler's notebook. My Midori is the original Midori branded traveler's notebook, and it has that beautiful shiny patinaed leather that feels quite different than the leathers that came about when they rebranded. Much of the newer leathers feel more kind of suede-like. My Ace Hotel Camel is definitely more suede-y, and the olive, to an extent, is also a bit suede-y. It has that more kind of velvety feel rather than a kind of a super smooth feel like my brown does. I did inherit this olive without any internal pockets, so I will be putting some additions on it. But I thought it would be fun to kind of look at the difference in color because it doesn't always translate very well. When I was first looking at the olive, I thought, well, that doesn't look a whole lot different than the brown. But when you compare them, and I noticed it particularly in the elastic colors, the olive really does have more of a green tint than the brown does, but it doesn't really come out obviously unless they're side by side next to each other. When I transfer the contents out of my brown, they will be in the same order in the olive as they currently are, which is my couple of folders, my dated monthly, my undated weekly vertical, and my zip pouch and my book of lists. It will all just come out and go right back in the same order. And for my bookmark, I am adding this little owl charm that I bought actually for someone else years ago, but I never was able to give it to them. And owls have become somewhat significant to me over the past couple of weeks because of a certain deity archetype that's been kind of making its presence known to me, and realizing and remembering that I had this owl, and that it's a charm, it has to go on. So that is what I'm doing here. I was concerned that it might be a bit difficult to get that string in there just because of the way the owl is shaped, but this actually, I got it in on the first try and it went in and came out the bottom just fine. So now I will knot the bottom of this twice. I will double knot it just to keep it secure so my little owl friend does not fall through. And I love the way that looks. That's perfect. I also have a spare button. This belongs to one of my jackets, and I thought the coloring looked really good with the cover, and so I decided to just use it on my front elastic, my closure elastic, and I bent that a little bit just to loosen it up. I just pulled that back elastic out through the back cover, undid the knot, so I could put the button on. There it is on the string. Now I check the ends of the elastic just to see what they look like, and they were a bit frayed, and when that happens I will trim a bit off of the edge just to make it a bit more streamlined so it goes through that back hole in the cover a little bit more easily and I don't have to fight it as much. And that trimming really helped, and I got it through on the first try. And now I'm just kind of judging how much elastic I will need for the closure, and I'm doing it kind of by muscle memory from my brown just because it will be the same contents. And so I decided to just tie the elastic at about the same spot as the brown, and I'm pretty sure that will be enough to close this properly. I'm not sure how they're going to fit the contents just because this is a newer cover. It hasn't been worked in or stretched. I don't know if it has as much give as my brown. We'll find out once I get the contents in there, but there I'm just rolling it back a little bit further just because this one is definitely not as flexible as my brown. The brown is a lot more bendy. The leather is a bit different. I'm taking out the contents of that top pocket there because I will duplicate that in the olive. And I am going to remove my brass clips so I can loosen those contents up and remove them from the middle elastic. They are all just coming out together and they are still attached. I really like the way that the pocket setup is in my brown, and so I will duplicate that with the addition of one more pocket. But this cover without anything in it, it's just incredible. I haven't seen it like this in so long, and the leather's so gorgeous. This is the Travelers Company 004 accessory. It contains a rectangular pocket and two kind of slanted angular pockets. I will put that top rectangular pocket in the same place as is in my brown, and then I will add the angled pockets on each, at the bottom of each side of the interior of the cover. And they just peel off. There's adhesive on the back. And you just position it the way you want. I'm just loosening it up a little bit there. You position it the way you want, and then you just gently pat it down with your fingers until it is nice and snug and secure where you want it. So that's my top pocket, identical to the spot in the brown. I do like it there. Just making sure I can get my finger in there. And I will replace the contents of that pocket in the new one. Now I'll peel off the angled pocket for the bottom left interior cover. One mistake I made with my brown is the pocket I placed on the back lower right cover, I positioned it too high and too centered, and so I learned my lesson with my brown, and so I am positioning each one more toward the bottom and the edge of the covers, just so it allows a bit more room for contents. And that on that back side, especially because of the knot for the elastic, there's a little bit it's a little less forgiving on that side as far as space and whether or not something's going to run into that. I'm just replacing those contents that were the same in my brown. And on the left, I am putting in my Empress card to go with my owl because I really want a Venus and a Minerva representation with me for the season of spring. So that Empress was an extra card I received from a tarot deck from Dead on Paper. Here the contents are still attached with the rubber band. They came out just as is, and now I'm just replacing this whole set of items into that middle elastic there. I inherited this olive with the mustard yellow. The olive is going to be a part of the regular lineup for Travelers Company starting in the spring, and they will be adding those olive colors to the repair kit and the bands, and I intend to get a spare backup of those so I can have an extra. There isn't much overhang. It's not that different actually to my brown. It does feel a little bit more snug, but I think that's just because it hasn't been used nearly as much as my brown has. I'm just going to replace those brass clips. The charm bookmark I often keep in the current month of my dated monthly, and then the clips kind of just fall in whatever I'm using most at the time. And that looks really nice. And I forgot to put my music clip back in on that top pocket, so I am doing that now. Closing it up. Again, it feels a little bit stiffer and with not as much give as the brown, but I kind of expected that just because of the not as much use as the brown. And I replaced my High-Tech C Coletto pen, Pilot pen, multi-pen. And I am digging this, and now my planner is ready for spring. That's all I have for this video. Until my next one, take care and be well.